Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Festerson. Mr. President.
Here. Would everyone please, well, bless you, you've already standing. Good pledge of allegiance and remain standing for our invocation by Council Member Gary Gurnett.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think that it's only fitting that we're so close to Christmas as to wish everyone here on the council, out in the chamber, and all of our friends and neighbors throughout our great city of Omaha a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, since this will be our last official meeting for 2016. And I think it's only fitting that we probably should have, and I don't think this has ever been done before, and we have a musical ending to our holiday wishes. Brought to you by the Parks Department Director's Top. Amen.
City Clerk certified publication of the Daily Record, the official newspaper, on December 16th. Notice for a pre-council and a regular city council meeting December 20th, 2016. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of the legislative chambers.
Boy, we're ready to start the meeting, and in the chamber, everybody's already standing up. We got a parks director with a singing tie. I don't know what else to do here other than good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this city council meeting today. The council thanks you for joining us. As a courtesy to those in attendance, would you please turn off or mute any of your electronic devices? Mr. Clerk.
Zoning ordinance on final reading and plan board attachments. Item number 5, ordinance to amend the boundaries of the ACI 265 Area of Civic Importance Overlay District to incorporate in that district the property located northeast of 72nd and Mercy Road. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 5 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Second. Moved and seconded to approve item 5. No lights. Roll call.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
5 is passed 7-0. 6 through 9 are one case. 6 is ordinance to rezone property located northwest of 72nd and Glenvale Drive from General Office District and Community Commercial District to Community Commercial District. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. 7 is resolution of preliminary plat entitled Benson Acres Replat 9 is hereby authorized. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. 8 is resolution of the plat entitled Benson Acres Replat 9 is hereby approved. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. 9 is the subdivision agreement is hereby approved.
Public hearing on agenda items 6 through 9 are today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Hackett, and I'm the owner's representative today. And I'd just like to let you know I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Are there any other proponents? I'm sorry. Oh, can I get your address too, please, sir?
Address 3515 Oak Ridge Road, Omaha, Nebraska 68112.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Festus.
Thanks, Mr. President. Maybe just one question for you. Come back up. So I see it as real positive, the redevelopment of the 72nd corridor here and just north of what is Ashley Ford, right, and the OPS property, right about in that area?
It's right across the street from the OPS bus barn, if you will.
Right, okay.
And maintenance facility there, and just north of Ashley Ford.
Great. And I know from the documentation it's a new redevelopment, retail, mixed use is sort of the idea. Is that right?
Correct.
Are you able to say what you're going to do there yet? Or
yes. Currently, the owner is looking at putting in a classic rock coffee franchise. It's an upscale coffee house. It's about 3,000 square feet and some parking with a lot for future development.
Great. I think that's positive, and I'm certainly supportive, and we'll motion to approve.
Super. Thank you.
Thanks.
Moved and seconded to approve items 6 through 9. No further lights. Roll call.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
6 through 9 are passed, 7 to nothing. Items 10 through 14 are the next case. 10 is ordinance to rezone property located west of 90th Street and south of Blair High Road from R6 low-density multifamily residential district to R6 low-density multifamily residential district. 11 is ordinance to rezone to DR Development Reserve, from DR Development Reserve District to R5 Urban Family Residential District. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. 12 is resolution of the revised preliminary plat entitled Blair Commons with a waiver of sidewalks is hereby accepted. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. 13 is resolution that the replat transmitted herewith entitled Blair Commons Replat 1 is hereby approved. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. And 14 is a subdivision agreement is hereby approved.
Public hearing on agenda items 10 through 14 are today. Proponents, please.
Yes, Neeraj Agarwal for the developer, 144 South 39th Street. What we have here today is a request relating to a development that's been before you before. This is located at approximately 96th and Blair High Road in Omaha. What we're requesting today is rezoning and plat approval, primarily relating to our proposed Phase 2. The Phase 1 that was previously approved related to 192 units of multifamily apartments. This Phase 2 consists of a lower density, 2 projects specifically, 50 units of senior apartments, and 32 for rent row houses, which would be 8 clusters of 4. We do have, based on prior discussions, some concerns from the neighborhood regarding connectivity. Again, this issue has been addressed previously when this item has been before you. Again, we'll defer to the city on the connectivity issue, and just want to open the floor for any questions you may have.
Okay. Do you have any renderings or drawings?
Yes. There's.
So that we can see.
So here you see the senior development is the 2 buildings in pink connected by community space. And then nearby that there is the 8 clusters of 4 row houses each, totaling to 32 units.
Okay.
So the senior development is on approximately 3.5 acres, and the proposed row house development would be on about 2.5 acres.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Ms. Melton.
Okay, of course.
Number of things that were brought up at planning board, and I'm surprised that I don't see Mr. Cooper Ryder here or Mr. Anderson, because they've been very active, and many of the neighbors have been very active in this. Aesthetics was one of their concerns. Do you have any renderings of what it's actually going to look like other than just some squares?
So these are renderings of the townhouses. As far as renderings for the senior development, we are still in the process of completing a construction set right now. But these would be just standard groups of 4. It would be 2-bedroom, 2-bath. There'd be garages as well. Given the grade issue with the site, it's kind of a unique layout, as you can see here. So we've worked with Olson, and we have Chris Willett from Olson here as well, who can address the grade challenge that this site presented, but would be offering garage parking and surface parking as well. So parking requirements would meet city code.
Okay, and then for purposes of the aesthetics of the building, separating them from the neighborhood, do you have a rendering of where that connection road is going to go for the development into the neighborhood?
Yes. So here, this is provided by Olson. We have really 3 points of connection to the overall site, Reddick Avenue and Blair High Road, which are really the primary points of entrance for the site. Olson completed a traffic study, and based on that analysis, resulted in a determination that 95% of the traffic would flow through those 2 points. The connecting point for the neighborhood would be the 92nd Avenue.
Right. That's the only point that is of contention at this point with the neighborhood, is that 92nd Avenue.
Correct.
But there are also homes that back up, and there have been prior promises made in front of the council, and that on the attachments, I just say that it just says there's to be proper tree mitigation plan submitted to the city. And I think you'd made promises that there would still be trees that would separate the housing development from your site. Are you still going to make sure that those trees exist?
Yes, when we proceed with that stage of development, yes, we will.
Okay, and you're going to make sure that trees line up along that property line?
Yes.
And then I think there was also promises made that you would also erect a fence?
Yes.
Okay, and that you're still going to maintain that you will?
Correct, yeah, with that.
Do that?
With the phase 1 and phase 2 as well, yes, of course.
Okay, I know, but it's more concerning because phase 2,
Yeah,
this is where the
correct.
connectivity. So when we passed phase 1, it was kind of, well, that connection isn't part of phase 1, so we can deal with it at phase 2. So now I don't want to be at phase 2, and then you say, oh, well,
Of
we already
course.
dealt with that at phase 1. We're
No,
gonna.
there'll be, yeah, fence
We're
and-
going to rehash it so
Of
that
course,
it's
yeah.
very clear, because this neighborhood is a very unique neighborhood. It is, although anyone can buy in this neighborhood, the majority of the people that live in the neighborhood are all, majority are senior citizens. Many are in wheelchairs, right, carts. You have to go to one mailbox, so you kind of have to go into the street to get your mail. So this is a little different than what we normally see in those townhomes on 92nd Avenue and around. And so they don't want to be connected, and they don't want people to be able to come in to their neighborhood, because they have kind of a unique little neighborhood right there. And I do think that, I know the city and I disagree on that one, but I think neighborhoods should be able to say we don't want to be connected, especially when there's 2 other connection sites for your proposed development that I think most people will use. Because it
Correct.
takes them out and onto actually Blair High Road, so you can get
Exactly,
there
yeah.
faster. So I still disagree that there's a necessity for that connection in this particular property.
Yeah, and I think practically speaking, having just spoke to Olson about this issue again, really the traffic analysis that was blessed by the Department of Roads and the city indicated that 95% of the traffic is anticipated to come through the 2 other points. So practically speaking, we don't think there'll be a big interruption for that. neighborhood.
95%?
Correct, yes.
And then there was also some requests at the planning board about signals on the access road. And I think maybe this would go to probably Public Works. It's my understanding that Nebraska Department of Roads did one and stated that it doesn't qualify for a signal. Is that correct? Does anybody know? Anybody?
Yeah.
Ryan Haas with the Public Works Department. That was part of the traffic study that we required, and NDOR reviewed and the city reviewed and concurred that it falls short of the threshold that for traffic signals at the main entrance.
Okay, and is that something that, in 2 years after this is built, that we could review and we could ask for another traffic study at
Absolutely.
all of those points? Because when you come out of that neighborhood as well, on is it Old Military
Mhm.
Road, I think that there's also some concern there because there's no signal.
We can continue to monitor, yes, over time.
Okay, and so we could ask, once this is built and we have the people inside, that we could do another traffic study to see if now that, it's full of people living there, that maybe it would change and
Yes.
we could get traffic signals.
That can be evaluated again after the full build condition.
Okay. I think I've covered most of them, other than speeding along 92nd. And I think that's something that we could potentially get. I think there already are speed bumps. Do you recall?
I don't.
Does anybody know? I think if there's not, then I will actually send the neighborhood a packet on the speeding on 92nd. Okay, with those promises that are being made that I will expect the developers to uphold, well, I'll be coming out to make sure, because you took down trees that we weren't aware of before, that I think some of the residents that lived along that property line were anticipating would stay. So I want to make sure that there are trees, if you've taken trees down that need to be replanted, that happens, and that aesthetically, we try and make this site look as good as we can.
No, and absolutely not.
I'm sorry if I may.
That's okay, Tom.
Tom McClay, 144 South 39th Street, Clary Development. We did not remove any trees along the property line between these property owners and that. The only trees that were removed were some trees that were along Blair High Road here.
On the front side.
On the front side. So when Mr. Anderson last time indicated trees were removed, somehow that was conflated to say that trees were removed here, which they were not.
Okay.
We have not removed any trees. There are trees there currently. We do plan on putting a fence in, as we've indicated a number of times at public meetings and neighborhood meetings as well. But the trees that are currently there, we have no intentions of taking down and anticipate they'll remain there. We weren't planning on adding trees along that whole line. It's already pretty well treed in there.
It is. There's quite a few trees. I just want to make sure none of them are ash trees.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I just got notice today they're taking them down in my front yard. So I don't know if those are ash trees or not for certain, but really right now what the concept is we're not removing any trees, but we weren't going to go add a whole bunch of new trees in. So I wanted to be clear with you so you didn't say, hey, Tom, you said you're going to add trees. We were not planning on adding trees there. We took down some trees here along Blair High Road, and some of those are going to be added back in. Those got the compaction of the soils that occurred when we were doing some grading work, knocked some of those trees out. It kills them. Compaction happens all the time in that situation. When we get done with that work, we will replant some trees in here, but currently right now we'll just leave the trees that are in place.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what we just want to make sure that that's an additional barrier to the fence.
Yeah, the trees that are there would remain. We put a fence in, and we think that is a good solution for everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Interrupted. Thanks.
I have no further questions at this time.
Okay.
Thank
Is
you.
there a motion? Well, Mr. Jerem.
Yeah, first, I understand the neighborhood's trepidation as this moves forward, but for those of us in districts that have been clamoring for some affordable housing developments, to see one of this size is really, I can think of 3 different neighborhoods in my district that keep asking, we have to keep housing affordable, we have to keep housing affordable to keep the people who are in the workforce close to the places where they live, and the mass transit to gets them to and from work. And so I think this is a good project. I just wish it were in my district. And I know Mr. Anderson. I've known him for many years. He's a fine person, and I understand his concerns and fears in some respects. But I do think, I agree with you, there was some confusion on those trees that got brought up in the preliminary part of this, and it's added to the fear in this stage. But I make a motion to approve.
Moved and seconded to approve items 10 through 14. Mr. Gurnett.
Mr. President, Public Works, come back up. I just want to clear something up in my mind. On the example that's on the screen where it says proposed 92nd Avenue connection, when that area was first built, I'm recalling quite a while back when this was first proposed or something came before, there was a traffic lane stub already there. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Ryan Haas with the Public Works Department. That's correct.
Okay.
There's a right-of-way stub to the border of the subdivision with the paved street stub to that boundary. And
in our world, as we've understood, or as I've come to learn, that means that when an adjacent area is going to be developed, there want to be a connection there to that development. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the reality of development occurring piecemeal over time. We can't just set them up how it's ultimately going to lay out. We have to provide those stubs. This subdivision in front of you actually has a stub here to the undeveloped property for future connection for the same reason.
All right. So one would be safe to assume that, knowing why that stub was there, that if and when sometime down the road, which we are now at, that area was going to be developed and it would be connected.
That's correct. If the intent was not to connect it to anything, it wouldn't be there in the first place.
Okay. All right, I just want to get that cleared up in my mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Councilman Grant, just a further add on to a little bit.
You have to say your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tom McClay, 144 South 39th Street, on behalf of Clare Development. As Ms. Elton might recall, in maybe some of the neighborhood meetings, I do believe this was pointed out to the neighborhood that that is a stubbed road, and it's a road that just goes right to the property line and stops. I mean, it's fairly obvious, and I think even the neighbors do acknowledge that that is there, and that they would begrudgingly maybe acknowledge that is there, and that that does kind of indicate a future road. I think their position is now is that maybe that's what it was, and maybe, but they would prefer it not to be that way, and so that was really the meat of the discussions are, is there a way to make it not that way?
I'm not saying anything against anybody.
Right.
I just wanted to get a point cleared up, okay?
Great, okay.
That's all I wanted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further lights. It's been moved and seconded to approve items 10 through 14. Roll call.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Yes. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Yes. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
10 through 14 are passed 7-0. Items 15 through 18 is the next case. 15 is ordinance to rezone property located southeast 132nd State Streets from Agricultural District to Development Reserve District. 16, ordinance to rezone to R4 single-family residential district high density. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. 17 is a resolution of the plat entitled Deer Creek Reserve is hereby approved. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. And 18 is the subdivision agreement is hereby approved.
Public hearing on agenda items 15 through 18 are today. Proponents, please.
Mr. President, members of council, John Bachman, 10250 Regency Circle, on behalf of the applicant. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. So, moved and seconded to approve items 15 through 18. There are no lights. Roll call.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Festerson. Mr. President.
Yes.
15 through 18 are passed 7-0. 19 through 23 is the next case. 19 is ordinance to rezone property located northwest 144th and Ida Street from Agricultural District to Development Reserve District. 20 is to rezone to Mixed Use District. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. 21 is ordinance to approve a mixed use development agreement to provide site development standards. 23, resolution to plat entitled Waterford Village, located northwest 144th and Ida Street, is hereby approved. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. 23, subdivision agreement is hereby approved.
Public hearing on agenda items numbers 19 through 23 are today. Proponents, please.
Mr. President, members of the council, John Fullenkamp, 11440 West Center Road, here on behalf of the applicant. This is a mixed-use center zoning case at the northeast corner of 144th and Ida. Comes to you with the recommendation of the Planning Board and the previously approved preliminary plat. The mixed-use center is essentially focused at the corner. There's a connection to the Waterford neighborhood to an existing street. There's about a 200-foot...
Are you referring to a rendering or something there that we can't see?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I certainly am.
Okay.
Put a mirror up there, and
I saw you doing all this.
I just got going. You know, one time I went to the planning board and I sort of drew this thing out in the air because I forgot my drawings. Okay, let's start over. Here is 144th Street. Here is Ida Street. This is a mixed-use center at that corner. What I was pointing out is the street that comes through 144th connects into the existing Waterford neighborhood, again, to an existing stub street. There's about a 200-foot, kind of interesting, some of the questions you were asking me for, a 200-foot power line and buffer there, and also the grade sits above the property here, so it's pretty well isolated from the neighborhood, but also provides the connectivity that the master plan calls for. One of the other things that's going to occur out here, just for your information, is Ida Street will be reconstructed this fall, so this street really serves in Ida Street. The main entrance to the Waterford neighborhood will be closed off for a while, so this will provide the access during that interim period of time. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Ms. Melton.
With this connection
Good
right
with
now.
this connection.
Yeah, I don't know they'll have any way in and out of the neighborhood while that's getting reconstructed. So with that,
I
I
hope
would,
they shop while they're there.
yeah, motion to approve.
Been moved and seconded to approve items 19 through 23. There are no further lights. Roll call.
Gurnett. Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
19 through 23 are passed, 7-0. Liquor, item number 24, Omaha Rockets Canteen, 2402 Lizzie Robinson Avenue, Class I liquor license, new application, new location. If you wish to grant this, you need to suspend Rule 7 of the City Council liquor rules because Dreamland Park is directly across the street.
Thank you. Item 24 is up. Are there any proponents for item 24?
Yes, Marcus Johnson, 2526 Franklin Street, Omaha 68111. Here on the behalf of Omaha Rockets Canteen.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Keep doing the cooking that you guys are doing. That's all I can say. Motion has been moved and seconded to suspend Rule 7. Roll call.
Gurnett. Yes. Jerem. Yes. Milton. Yes. Pauls. Yes. Thompson. Yes. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes. Roll call.
Gurnett. Yes. Jerem. Yes. Milton. Yes. Pauls. Yes. Thompson. Yes. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes. Roll call.
Gurnett. Yes. Jerem. Yes. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Yes. Festerson. Yes. Mr. President.
Yes.
24 is adopted, 7-0. Item number 25, Shopko Stores.
Good luck, guys.
Number 44 at 3020 South 84th Street. On sale beer license application, new location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 25 is today. Proponents, please.
Don't think they're here.
They're not here. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Pauls.
I support this. I think the individual entities are feeling.
Okay.
I would second. That was
Yes.
Are you making a motion?
Yes.
And a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 25. There are no further lights. Roll call.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls. Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
25 is adopted, 7-0. Item number 26, Travel Design Lounge, 16950 Wright Plaza, Suite 151. Request permission to appoint Shelby Goodrum, manager.
Public hearing on agenda item number 26 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi, I'm Shelby Goodrum, 9113 West Ridge Drive, Omaha 68130, manager of Travel Design Lounge.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Moved and seconded to approve item 26. No lights. Roll call.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
26 is adopted, 7-0. We'll take items 27, 28, and 29 together. They're all Keno satellite locations. 27 is a resolution that Big Red is granted approval to operate a satellite Keno location at Cozy's Lounge, 5813 North 60th, at Eclipse Lounge, 1201 South 157th Street, and the Taco Mill, 13806 P Street.
Public hearing on agenda items numbers 27, 28, and 29 are today. Proponents, please.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Katrina Coffey. I'm Vice President of Marketing for Big Red Keno. We're located at 11248 John Galt Boulevard. I have with me today the three owners. These are all three ownership changes. They're existing Keno locations right now, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Gurnett.
Mr. Coffey, since we're bringing this year to an end, how many of satellite locations do we have that offer? Right off the top of your head.
Well, I believe we have 188 right now, and these three are already existing locations. And I have 5 applications, 6, I just brought one down last week, so I have 6 more locations that'll be appearing before you too, and sometime in January, I would assume.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. There are no more lights. Is there a motion? Or has moved and seconded to approve items 27, 28, 29. No more lights. Roll call.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
27 through 29 are adopted 7-0.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Any member of City Council may cause item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed consent agenda shall be taken up by City Council at meeting following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by City Council rules of order.
The public hearing on agenda items numbers 30 through 41 were held on December 13, 2016. Moved and seconded to approve. No further lights. Roll call.
Gurnett. Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Festerson. Mr. President.
Yes.
30 through 41 are passed 7-0.
The public hearing on agenda items numbers 42 through 57 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by your name, address, who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent.
Luis Jimenez, 3126 Chicago Street, and I'm a proponent for 44, which is a resolution to recommend by the mayor the purchasing agent is authorized to issue a purchase order to Verizon Wireless for hardware and an accompanying service agreement for automated vehicle location. I just want to be on the record that I think it would be a great idea if the buses in the bus metro had a tracking system and an accompanying app for the rider. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other opponents or proponents, the public hearing is closed.
Motion approved.
Moved and seconded to approve items 42 through 57. No further lights. Roll call.
Gurnett. Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Thompson. Festerson. Mr. President.
Yes.
42 through 57 are adopted 7-0. Ordinance on final reading. Item number 58, ordinance creating street improvement district number 6879 for the purpose of improving Leavenworth Street from South 93rd Street to South 94th Street by grading, curbing, paving, and Portland cement concrete to provide for the determination of damages, barring any protest to the contrary, to complete the associated improvement project.
Public hearing on agenda item number 58 is today. Proponents, please.
Mr. President, members of the council, my name is Laura Heineman. I'm at 9312 Leavenworth Street, here to support this. I'm a member of the neighborhood.
And I'm Joanne Amora, and I live at 9316 Leavenworth, and I'm very supportive of this proposal.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Oh, Dr. Thompson.
Just for my colleagues' sake, this is a culmination of a meeting that was held in the living room of the main spokesperson about 2 months ago, and they followed up, and then they also came to the mayor's town hall meeting back in October, and it was at that meeting that the mayor said that if you're looking for the help being able to pay for it, the sooner the persons get on in the dock, the lineup, the better the chance. And so I know that this group is going to be coming back asking for 50% to be applied by the city to help. But we were supposed to, as a city, supposed to by now, or at least within a couple of weeks, have what the mayor's plan is. Anybody from Public Works here? Public Works, please.
Public Works Director.
Bob Stubbe, Public Works.
Bob, can you give us an update on whether or not we will have that plan announced before the year is up?
We will not have the plan announced before the year's out. We're putting together a task force, and I know that the mayor's office has finalized the individuals, and they have all been contacted, and the mayor will be sending them a letter, and we are scheduled to meet on January 11th as kind of our kickoff meeting.
Okay.
We anticipate that probably should take 3 to 4 meetings before we finalize a policy.
So for those who are under the impression that we're going to have this information by the end of December, we'll probably have to tell them that's going to be closer to the end of February, beginning of March. Is that correct?
Yeah, because once the policy is adopted, it's anticipated that that information will come in front of the council for approval. So if we meet in the middle of January, anticipate that it will be the middle of February before we complete. So yeah, the end of February, first part of March would be something that would come in front of the council for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Stubbe.
You're welcome.
So for the 2 individuals that came representing the neighborhood, the official announcement won't be until later, but I will personally meet with the mayor on your behalf and see what commitments can or cannot be made. So no promises are made today, but I will fight hard on your behalf.
Thank you. Mr. Festerson.
Thanks, Mr. President. And just for Councilmember Thompson's benefit, too, because I know he was out last week and this morning with his shoulder surgery, which we hope is going well. We had a similar case last week in my district, 89th and Burt, one that was already in the queue and coming through and in the same process and timeline as this one. And my point at the time was I think we need to be fair and consistent until such policy is identified with the ones that are in the queue and coming through, such that they have the 50-50 share opportunity that the rest of the ones we've seen already have enjoyed. So I would support that for the one we had last week at 89th and Burt, and I would also support that for this one as it comes through the queue as well. Thanks.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve item 58. There are no further lights. Roll call.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton?
Yes.
Pauls? Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
58 passed 7-0. Resolution, item number 59, resolution City of Omaha Convention and Visitors Bureau is hereby authorized to establish a nonprofit corporation for the purpose to provide subsidies for conventions.
Public hearing on agenda item number 59 is today. Proponents, please.
Held.
I'm sorry?
It was held.
Oh, it was. I'm sorry, it was held.
We did not.
We did not lay over.
If you want to ask questions, you may ask somebody to come down and talk, but you did not.
Ms. Melton.
That looks like he would like to come down and maybe be asking questions, so I'm going to call him down.
Mike Kasalka, I'm the general manager of Exarban Suites on 7270 Cedar. I am also past president of the Metropolitan Hospitality Association, and we are just here as a group to support this initiative as well, in understanding that it would be a great asset to the city to have this changed over and increase tourism at Omaha. So anybody in the hospitality industry is here. Any questions you might have that as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. And I will have others. So is Keith here? Oh, there you are. Do you want to come down just so that there may be other questions?
Keith Baxton, Director of the Omaha Convention Visitors Bureau.
Thank you, Keith. And I just kind of wanted to reiterate a few things. First of all, I support this, and the reason I support this is, you know, politicians talk all the time when they're getting elected. I'm going to create jobs and lower taxes, and you know, you have all these promises, and then you go to follow it up with, well, how are you going to do that? Well, you know, we'll get to that when it comes, but that's what I'm going to do, right? Well, the only way that you're going to provide at least as good as services or better services, and not raise taxes and even be able to lower taxes, like reduce the restaurant tax. It's by generating revenue, not from taxation, but by bringing business in and by creating jobs. And so what I really appreciate, Keith, since you started, what, about a year and a half ago?
A year and a half ago, yes.
You came in, I mean, you came in here going, I want to help make this better. I want to expand. I want to figure out what's working, continue to do that, but then I want to figure out what I can do to make things better. And I know that you worked on this a long time, although we didn't necessarily know about it, and a lot of people didn't know that you were working on it for as long as you did. And what I was really impressed with is the amount of research that you put into it, looking into what other cities do, what best practices are, what separates Omaha from other cities, and how, you know, whether it's privatized conventions or whether it's run by the city. And I guess in my opinion, I know we had some things about transparency. I'm comfortable with the transparency because I believe currently it's Dr. Thompson is the chair. Dr. Thompson will be on the committee, or, next year when we have a new president, reappoint committee members, we're going to have a member of the Omaha City Council on this committee that can be reviewing the specific dollar amounts, where they're going to make sure it's appropriate. And that we're also going to have the city finance director on there, as well as city legal. Mr. Kratz, I believe, is going to be on there. Is that correct? All of which I know care about taxpayers, where their money's going, and if this is going to be utilized properly. And so this is one way where I really believe we can increase the number of conventions, therefore the money spent in the city and our revenue. So I wanted to give you the opportunity, if you could just give us some of those figures about what we've done and maybe how you think this could impact. If you could give us those figures one more time, because I forget.
Sure. Happy to.
They were from last week.
I think there's a couple things. One is, again, looking at how much we've given out in the last 2 years, or what we're looking at in 2017. In 2016, sorry, I've looked at these numbers so many times, I should have them on the top of my head. But in 16, there were 13 conventions that we helped incentivize them to come to the city for a total of about $109,000. In 17, there's another 11 groups that we're giving out $94,000. Now, it doesn't sound like a whole lot. As you've heard me mention before, I'm looking at potentially down the road, we could be giving out $250,000 a year. A lot of it has been because we've been capped. We can't grant more than $19,999 without first bringing it before council and asking for approval. And that's a 3 to potential 6-week process. And in the meantime, our competition has offered them a deal, had the paper signed, and we're still at the first reading. And so there's been that challenge. I look at what of our lost business, Councilman Melton. I look at the business that we've lost over the last 5 years, and there could be some additional reasons, but one of the main reasons on these 22 groups was that we couldn't come to a financial agreement. And being able to use these incentive funds, I think, is critical to us being successful going forward. So those 22 groups, they represented over $56 million in business. Now, even if we were to convert roughly 20% of that, that's a huge investment or commitment and contribution to this city.
And these funds that we're talking about, and I just want to be clear, and I understand that council heard this, and we've been briefed, but I want to make sure that it's clear for the public. This fund will be identified at budget time.
Correct.
And so the amount that we're going to allocate to this fund for incentives to encourage convention and encourage business to come here will be set out at the beginning of the year. Then at the end of the year, you will give us a statement of all the groups that will be funded, just not the individual funding amounts, correct?
That's correct.
And that's proprietary information for purposes of, we don't want to give away how we're doing it because we could lose
Correct.
Contracts that way too.
Correct.
But the individual council members, in fact, not just Dr. Thompson, but any council member on the board could come in and could view those figures just as a double check and for purposes of transparency.
Absolutely.
Moving forward in the future.
Yes.
And the other thing that I just wanted to make sure, just for purposes of how this is going to work, it is kind of a last-minute deal for you, is that right? I mean, when you're trying to make these deals, you've got sometimes just a few days.
Correct. What we've done is we've exhausted every other opportunity. So we're down to the final negotiations. We've asked our hotel partners to do something to help make this attractive enough to bring this convention in. We've asked our partner with the venue potentially to do the best that they can do. And now it's that matter of this group's looking at us or another city. Okay, we've got to be able to offer them one extra incentive to get them over the top. And yeah, that means sometimes within 24 hours, even the same day, sometimes we've had that deal of, I can sign with Omaha or I can sign with Grand Rapids. Which one should I do? And it comes down to a dollar amount.
And it could be as little as $2,000.
Exactly.
On a convention that would bring in potentially how much?
$1.5 million to $3 million to the marketplace.
And now, these funds, they're not necessarily just coming right out of our general fund.
No.
I mean, it's not funds that we could use for potholes, correct?
This is from a designated fund. The state has directed that lodging tax be collected from all of our lodging facilities here in Douglas County. Those funds are collected, given to the county. The county then passes them on to the city, and they are dedicated solely to tourism promotion, so they can't be used for anything else. And this reserve account has basically been built up over the years of excess funds from lodging tax that have come in, or from our organization doing a good job of managing our budget and actually living within our means and being put those funds into basically a savings account. Now we're trying to figure out a way, how can we actually use that savings to actually create more money for the community?
Okay. Thank you very much. And I do appreciate the extra meetings that you've taken with constituents just to better explain this. I know I even took your time on a Saturday, so I want to thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Festerson.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'm supportive of this today, and I just wanted to point out what we need to observe here, that this is really probably one of the most unique city departments we have, both in terms of its unique business that you're in and competing for business on behalf of our city with every other city in the country, but also unique in the respect that most other CVBs are private in nature and are not city government. There are pros and cons to both models. For us, it was really a genesis of it formerly being county government, being now a joint agreement with the city to manage and have city employees to operate this business together with Mecca, realizing that the city ultimately and the city taxpayers ultimately own the CenturyLink Center and the responsibility that comes with that to fill the building and to have the economic development we all hope and have so far proven to come from that, in addition to our other facilities and in working with the hotels and motel operators. So I think we need to take a step back and realize that, but then also realize we've had conversations about taking it private, the entity itself, but until such time we need to find ways to be competitive, and to me this is one of those ways to get that done. And I think as Councilmember Melton has pointed out, this is actually, I see this as a preferable to the current situation, which is we don't know where that taxpayer money is going because it is done under $20,000, and we're not questioning your judgment, but that is what happens today, whereas under this new system, it will be engaged by a committee that will have that oversight and be aware of all those details and commitments. And so it'll be incumbent upon that committee to be engaged and responsible as to how this money is spent along with you and the city attorney and finance director. But then ultimately that list coming to the city council once a year around budget time so that everyone knows where that has gone, maybe not the exact amounts, but the names for sure. And to me that's more transparency than we have now to get where we need to be. So I'm supportive of what you've done with this work, and I'll be in favor today too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted my colleagues to know that Mr. Braxton didn't just go off on his own and do this when he first was hired. I was one of the ones that approached him and asked him to do something to give us a competitive edge. And Keith, if you remember, I told you that one of your predecessors, we had an academic, a potential academic conference. It's a large one that many professors go to. It has to do with diversity and multicultural education. And we had contacted them, and they considered Omaha, but one of the things, there were 2 or 3 things that knocked us out of the queue, but one of the main thing that knocked us out is that we didn't have the incentives. And so if you remember, those were some of the things that I shared with you when you first came in. And so I know it's not a perfect situation, and I know the transparency isn't 100%, but I do believe it's approaching 80% or so, and I do trust your judgment as a manager to do the right thing. And so it's been a long time waiting, and because you know, when this thing first started around, Gary and I were here, and we always wanted to see the business grow, and it just seems like this is the way you do it, and this is the way that other cities are doing it too. So I support it 100%.
Thank you. Mr. Pauls.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I just think we ought to thank the state legislature for setting this whole process up so that tax dollar did come back, or the hospitality taxes did come back, so we can utilize it. Today, I've been hearing the word, because every time I hear it, just to me, it's almost a buzzword. I've heard the word transparency used an awful lot up here. And I think most of you know where I'm going to go on this. And I didn't bring, and I appreciate how you explained everything to me today. And of course, I support this. But I always think it's quite interesting. If we want transparency, and as you can recall, the last time this subject was brought up, I thought maybe on that committee we have the city, you say city council, finance, and attorney. I always thought if we had somebody from the outside world looking in, that would give it even more of a feeling of transparency. As I suggested, I think last time, like somebody like a Darby or something like that. I am a little bit disappointed that we haven't taken that little bit of a change. I mean, I support what you're doing,
sure,
but I just think that would have cleared up this unbelievable word I always hear about transparency. It just would be, because it gives an outside other than just government. That's my little sermon for today.
Sure.
But of course I do support this. I appreciate your work.
Thank you. Mr. Gerald.
Yes. I think as we all talked about this when this last came forward, there wasn't any doubt in my mind that there was unanimity among those of us who spoke in terms of supporting your mission and promoting our city in such a way that the hoteliers, the convention center and arena, and our hotel investment that the taxpayers of the city own are given the best chances for success and prosperity and to pay off that massive debt. The balance would be struck in terms of the public's right to know where the tax dollars are going, wherever that source of funds may have come from. Because this is the people's government, it's the people's money, and they, in our democracy, have these rights to know that we're trying to respect. And as I used the Venetian blind example, that what was being proposed was not to close the blinds, but to just adjust them in such a way that perhaps there was some light that was blocked in what we were being asked to approve. I'd like to know, first of all, foremost, your agreement, as I think I heard you said before, to one of the ideas, that this will in fact come through the city's annual budget process, where the ask in terms of the taxpayers to have our council approve the line item that'll go into this fund annually will in fact occur, right?
Correct.
So that is an important component we talked about when we last convened that's being addressed, and I want to compliment you and the city attorney and finance director for achieving that in this proposal, because that is a huge component of the public knowing where the money's going. Annually, if they participate or want to participate in the budget process, or go online, click on the budget, see where it's proposed to be, how it's going to be spent. They can come to the public hearing, they can email us, they can call us, and they'll see the total amount.
Yes.
Then on the back end, in between then, in the back end, you have this committee of 3, and yes, it would have been, probably enhanced if you had someone from the private sector, so the public might have a higher level of confidence in how the money is being spent. But I'm comfortable enough with the committee that you've assembled. But on the back end, they'll see, okay, more specifically, here's what was budgeted, here's what we spent, and generally, here's the groups that it was spent on. So to me, you've managed to strike a balance in a very difficult proposition in maintaining competitiveness to achieve our huge goals, and they're massive priorities when you're talking about the kind of debt that we're obligated to pay as a city, and being able to fill those hotel rooms, those convention halls in those hotels, in our convention center and the arena. So kudos to you for that level of openness and for committing to the recommendation we made last time. So that's put me over the hump.
Good. Thank you.
And as I said to you last week, if there is a more creative, extravagant greeting card that you're sending out to your DMO organizations, I have not seen it. And I think I saw a news report of your craft beer exhibit at some convention. Yeah.
Yep, that goes back to that being
Your
competitive.
creative people are doing a fabulous job, and I don't know if
Got a
any
great
of you
team.
are here, but
Some of them are here today, Chaz.
kudos. Yeah.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further lights. Is there a motion? Motion to approve. Moved and seconded to approve item 59. Roll call.
Gurnett. Yes. Jerem. Yes. Milton. Yes. Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
59 is adopted, 7-0. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7F, agenda item number 60 shall be later 3 weeks for publication, public hearing. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, due to no meetings being held December 27th, January 3rd, and January 17th, 2017, the third reading and public hearing agenda item 61 shall be held on January 24th, 2017. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, due to no meetings being held December 27th and January 3rd, 2017, the second reading and public hearing agenda items 62 through 67 shall be held on January 10th, 2017.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. No further lights. Roll call.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes, and happy holidays to everyone on council.
We stand adjourned at 2:56 p.m.
And I didn't know that she's a creative genius.
Yes.